The Adverse Childhood Experiences Study is the largest public health study ever done, and it tracks the link between abuse and neglect before the age of 18 and how that affects your physical body over time. And so they've connected this study. It's been a long-term study that's been done since the mid-90s at Kaiser Permanente in San Diego, California, and they've tracked and noticed that specific diseases are inherent in people who had abusive and neglectful childhoods. And among them are cancer, autoimmune disease, lung diseases, substance abuse, and guess what? Difficult relationships are often a very big part of this. So they're tracking this before the age of 18, but what about after the age of 18? And that's a little bit about what I'm going to try to tackle in this video. It's a really big subject, but relationships that you have with your primary caregivers set you up for relationships later on in your life, and the kinds of people that you will end up being with. And I'm going to talk a little bit about why that happens, and I'm also going to give you 3 kinds of relationships that can make you sick. And what you can do to get well. So I'm going to just tell you up front that yes, there is a connection between your relationships and your illness in your body. I've seen in my own practice that many times these things can be reversed, stopped in their tracks, or prevented if you work with them early on. I'm Dr. Meg Haworth, and I'm a doctor of transpersonal psychology, that's holistic psychotherapy. I offer intuitive somatic psychotherapy in my practice, and I am also a holistic nutritional chef. And so I offer the connection between food and how that can support your body to heal yourself as you're going through your emotional release therapies and your holistic transformations. So, like I said in this video, I'm going to cover the 3 kinds of relationships that can make you sick as an adult. So we already know that the Adverse Childhood Experiences Study is already tracked, as I said, before the age of 18. Now, what happens is those patterns that you form in that time frame will become patterns that you continue to cycle through as you go through your life. And so you'll tend to attract people that reawaken those patterns. And modern psychology looks at it differently than transpersonal psychology does. I look at it more as these patterns are there for you to transmute and transform, should you use your free will to decide to do it. So you have this thing called free will that you can make a decision about how you go about your healing. So, and the way that you do that is you get in touch with your intuition. Your intuitive self will let you know if something's right for you. But what happens is if you've gone through an abusive childhood, if you've gone through neglect as a child, you tend to have so many defenses built up and so many emotional patterns in play that are very difficult to get past. And so you tend to disconnect from your own internal guidance system. And you may be using that internal guidance system to be picking up on everyone else and what their issues are. You may be able to intuitively size up another person just like that. And partly because of what you had to do, the defenses you had to build up as a child to get through the experience. So that may be what's happening for you. So you pick up on other people's stuff and you're not so good at connecting with yourself. And so it's giving you a little clue as to what the keys are to help you heal all of this. And just to give you a little bit of background, if you don't already know, I went through, as a child, I went through childhood sexual, physical, emotional abuse, and it affected me dramatically. And then I ended up having adult relationships that were actually very difficult, codependent relationships with addicts, and other types of abuse and neglect in my relationships. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about those things as well so that you can see yourself in this. And hopefully this can help you with your own personal journey and your own relationship. So the short answer to this, the question I'm asking in this video, is that yes, your adult relationships can affect your physical body. We do know that emotions can very much affect our physical body. I mean, you know this. You've been worried sick. You've been up at night trying to get some sleep, but you're worried about something in your life. Or maybe you're scared of your mate. Maybe you don't feel heard or seen or understood. Those things are very, very important in relationships. And we tend to find the relationships that will help us heal these patterns, but we have to shift our perception and look at it differently than we may have before. So stay with me for a moment while I go over the 3 different types of relationships. And these are just some types of relationships that you might have that could be making you sick as an adult, and what you can do about it. Okay, I already mentioned the first kind of relationship, and those are addictive and codependent kind of relationships. And so you may even be an addict of relationships. You might have be a serial monogamist where you're going from relationship to relationship. One of the best definitions I ever read about codependency, and I don't have the reference here, but it was just so good. So it's not mine. I'm not claiming it as mine. But codependency is where one partner is unconditionally loving the other partner who is completely turned in on him or herself. So they've turned against themselves and they're struggling with their identity. They're struggling with themselves. They're struggling with a lot of inner emotional, what we would call emotional demons, and the emotional experience that they haven't been able to unhinge yet. And but when they stop the addiction, when they stop, like if they stop alcohol or drugs, then they start to become aware and awake to what they've been through, and to what's happening internally, and they start to have the power to be able to change that. And that's one of the reasons that 12-step programs can work so well for the people who really do work the programs. So an addictive and codependent relationship can put a tremendous strain on your physical body. And if you're already prone to your physical body reflecting your experience, you're already prone to getting sick easily, or you're prone to feeling like distress in your body when you're feeling an emotion. If you're really prone to that, then working on your addictive relationship or your codependent relationship will be really, really important for you, so that you can gain an understanding and the opportunity to heal your part in it. Because if you are the codependent person with a person who is the addict and they're not working on themselves just yet, you can work on yourself and you can get better and you can improve and you can still stay in the relationship. It's going to require both of you working together. That's one of the first relationships that can really affect the physical body. It can put a big strain on both parties because you're not really talking through things. You're not really getting through things. And maybe you don't have the skills because you grew up in a household where you just don't have the skills. You don't have the skills and the boundaries. And so you can learn those things, and so that's really the good news. And there's lots of people out there that can help you with that. The second type of relationship that I want to talk about that can make you sick are emotionally abusive relationships. These can be very insidious and very difficult relationships. You've probably heard a lot lately about narcissistically abusive relationships, people with personality disorders like narcissistic personality disorder, people with bipolar disorder, which is not a personality disorder, or with borderline personality disorder. And I know it's easy to go out there and look at all these videos and try to diagnose the person that you're with. I'm actually not a person who diagnoses people with these things. I'll talk about them so that you can understand more deeply about yourself and what you've gone through. Learning about those kinds of relationships can be very, very valuable for you. But just, be careful. Try not to assume that you're in a narcissistic relationship when you may not be. But some signs that you might be in a relationship that is emotionally abusive, and wearing away at your physical body through your emotional self. If you're not being seen, If the other person doesn't see you at all, won't try to understand you, won't try to listen to you, or just simply is unable to listen to you, if you start to notice that that person really has no empathy for you, they never are able to sit with you and go, wow, I'm really sorry that's happening for you, and that really sucks, and you can't feel that coming from them. If it feels fake or forced to you, it may not be true empathy coming your way. And they may not be able to access empathy. Empathy is that ability to feel with another human being, not to feel for them. People who have those kinds of personality disorders can be wonderful at sympathy. I mean, they can be tremendously sympathetic, but that's part of how they get their supply, is through the weakness of other people around them. And if this person is getting some sort of a hit, an emotional hit from your weakness, it can actually make you sicker faster. Determining what kind of relationship you're in, I think, is an important piece of it. And there are many, many, many resources out there to help you do that. But don't just assume that's what's happening. It may be a matter of you haven't really talked with your partner. You haven't really looked at your own emotional patterns and worked through those. And they may be coming up because they've been happening with you since you were a young child. So you have the opportunity to do that. Do some things first to try to determine. Don't just decide that, you've watched a ton of videos and decide that you've got it figured out and that you got to go. You may have to go. It really may be the case. But depending on your relationship and your commitment and your investment in your relationship, you may want to just do a real deep dive into yourself and into the relationship itself. So the third kind of relationship that I want to talk about are disconnected relationships. You're disconnected from your partner's disconnected from you, and these relationships can often form pretty early on because your relationship started because there was like this major, wow, amazing, this person, like the sexual thing was there, the all those amazing feelings and that excitement and all those things were there at first, but you didn't really spend the time to get to know the person. And this is a big one. You may have not let them really get to know you because you were so afraid that if they knew this, and this about me, that I'm going to lose them. They're not going to want to be with me. But, true love is a person who really accepts you in spite of those things. If they can't accept you because you have an autoimmune disease, or if they can't accept you because you've had multiple marriages, or if they can't accept you because you went through abuse as a child and they're just afraid of what that's going to mean for them, they may not be able to be with you through the hardest times. And that's the most important thing that a person can do for you in relationship, is to really be there with you. Relationships are not easy. You're having to negotiate another person. They're having to negotiate you. You're having to try to bring your lives together and meld them together, different tastes, different ideas, different upbringings. That's a lot. That's a lot to go through. And so knowing your partner really well before you go to those stages is a very, very important piece that a lot of us skip. And it's because we get really wrapped up in the fantasy of this person that we think is the person that we made the list. This person's checking all the boxes off on the list, and that's a very logical way of looking at it. And logic is a part of it, and love is a part of it. So if you have a lot of abuse in your background, you may be really attracted to people, or the person that makes you go, "Wah!" is the person who's going to help you unhinge the pattern, and it may be in a painful way. So anyway, back to disconnected relationships. If you feel alone in your relationship, if you feel like this person just really doesn't see you, hear you, or understand you, you may want to look at your inner emotional life and your inner emotional patterns and work on yourself first. Because the most important thing, and I'm just going to give away this secret right up front, the most important and valuable asset you have is your relationship with yourself. And so often our relationships with ourselves are disconnected. We're disconnected from our own internal voices. We're disconnected from our own intuitive nature and our own intuitive selves. And this part of you is one of the most important parts of you. And, everything about human life seems to take us away from that connection, that interconnectedness that we can have with ourselves. And that inner relationship is the most important thing you have. And as you heal that, and you heal your long-standing emotional patterns, and you heal the entire holistic system, and that means your mental, your emotional, your physical, and your energy systems, all of those systems work together as one thing to create you. And when you look at all those different parts of yourself, that's the best thing that you can do. So I told you I was going to give you some solutions to what you can do. And I created a technique called Whole Person Integration Technique. And if you follow me, you may already know about this technique. There's information on the channel that goes more in depth as to what this technique does and how it can help you. And it's an emotional release technique, but it's actually a holistic technique. So it's looking at the entire system. And this can help you understand how you're holding your emotions in your physical body, how you're holding beliefs from past experiences in your physical body, or beliefs from current relationships that you have in your physical body, and how that might be draining you over time. And so this is one solution. There are so many of them out there, and I just sincerely want you to get the help that resonates with you the most. And go down the path that works the best for you. And the best way to do that is get in touch with your intuition. And so I also offer a course called Evolving Intuition, Building Self-Trust for Life. I offer it mainly to practitioners, health practitioners who are conscious and adding modalities to their practice, because I will certify you in Whole Person Integration Technique to help you remove the blocks that you're holding in your system, because you can use the technique on yourself and also on other people when I certify you in it. You don't have to get the certification if you don't want to. You may just want to learn about it and use it on yourself. Totally up to you. But evolving your intuition, learning your intuitive type, and learning to recover your empathy. If you are highly empathetic and you, like I said earlier, if you sense everything about everyone else and you feel drained, especially around certain people, and you feel like you're getting sick from being around those people, and that kind of drain, you can learn to manage your energy system with my empath recovery system. And I would love to be able to teach you about that as well. There's so many therapies available to you. There's somatic therapies, somatic re-experiencing, there's energy work. But really, when you feel and you make that decision, like, I'm ready, I am done with this pattern, I no longer want to be sick, I want to be well, and you make the decision to truly change your life, and you're motivated to do that, then do something. I would love to talk to you. If I can't help you and if we're not a good fit for each other, then I refer you to somebody in my giant network who might be a great fit for you. And I have a huge network of medical doctors and Oriental medical doctors and people from all different backgrounds, acupuncturists and different types of philosophies and religious backgrounds. I think it's important to really look at what's your spiritual belief system, and because that matters a lot too. And what, anyway, back to you. Your relationship with yourself is the most important relationship that you will ever have. And getting square with that and healing those internal emotional patterns will help you get well faster than just about anything else. Inner child therapy. That's another thing there's a video on my channel about inner child therapy. If that resonates with you, that's something that I do as well. So just book a free call with me. The links are in the description below and in the comments below. And I hope this information will help you get well.